Hare Krishna, everyone. So we're really going for the, what did you say, mustard gang look here. Just want to hide my blue. Make it all mustard gang. So we're sunny and bright and cold and snowy New York.
Yeah, very cold.
So we're here to read the Bhagavatam. So, where are we?
Canto 4, Chapter 12, Text 10.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Text 10. As long as he remained at home, Dhruva Maharaj performed many great ceremonial sacrifices in order to please the enjoyer of all sacrifices, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Prescribed ceremonial sacrifices are especially meant to please Lord Vishnu, who is the objective of all such sacrifices and who awards the resultant benedictions. Purport. In Bhagavad Gita, chapter 3, text 9, it is said, Yagya
tart karmano nyacha loko yam karma bandhanaha.
Okay. One should act or work only in order to please the Supreme Lord. Otherwise, one becomes entangled in the resultant reactions. According to the 4 divisions of Varna and Ashram, Kshatriyas and Vaishyas are especially advised to perform great ceremonial sacrifices and to distribute their accumulated money very liberally. Dhruva Maharaj, as the king and ideal Kshatriya, performed many such sacrifices, giving very liberally in charity. Kshatriyas and Vaishyas are supposed to earn their money and accumulate great riches. Sometimes they do it by acting sinfully. Kshatriyas are meant to rule over a country. Dhruva Maharaj, for example, in the course of ruling, had to fight and kill many yakshas. Such action is necessary for Kshatriyas. A Kshatriya should not be a coward, and he should not be non-violent. To rule over the country, he has to act violently.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's interesting, but bearing in mind, Kshatriyas were not just fighting for no good reason, as it were, and fighting and dividing and being, immoral. And Kshatriyas, as it says here, should not be cowards, and they had to fight. And so I think we mentioned this in previous readings, that this meant the leaders as well. This meant those in power at the top making so-called decisions for everyone else. And that's admirable, extremely admirable actually, because you are leading from the front and you're doing what you're expecting others to sacrifice and do. Let's be honest. So these are real warriors. These are real, soldiers, as it were, and that's very respectable, I would say. You would respect, when you hear about or see stuff in the movies or hear, leaders of many bygone years, they rallied their troops and they were on the ground, and led from the front. Not nowadays you see people this is true, you see presidents and prime ministers visit the troops. They're not regularly either, but they visit the troops. So there's a big photo op and it's a big, you can do it, like that, and that becomes
rah.
Yeah, and it's interesting because that does inspire people. Oh, look, he's coming. People see it like that. No, you may go there and visit them, but can you stay there? Can you live with them in the conditions they have to live with on the battlefield? Because it's not like the 5-star Hilton hotel or something. And then can you take up arms and can you actually kill someone, and can you sort of act in a way that you don't get killed and other people don't. Not just, okay, I'm going to go back now, and then they fly out on their private jet. So this is...
Yeah, can you imagine Joe Biden or
No,
Rishi
I don't want to.
Shonik
Right, yeah.
going out and like taking a gun and, you know,
They
getting
wouldn't.
in the trenches and fighting it out.
No, they wouldn't, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it's a different kind of space. I just think it's interesting how Prabhupada clearly points out that he says Kshatriya should not be a coward and he should not be non-violent. That he has to act violently in order to protect. And we hear so much about the principle of ahimsa, and we're, clear about that. In fact, it's described that ahimsa is one of the qualities of knowledge. It's one of the qualities of a Vaishnava. But that it has to be seen in context. Because Arjuna is a Vaishnava, Arjuna is a great devotee, and he's being encouraged to fight and to kill his kinsmen. So, according to context, we have to understand things. The challenge is that often we want things to be black and white. And it's like, it's ahimsa, or it's not ahimsa, and that's it. No, ahimsa can be applied according to time, place, and circumstance. So, anyway, it's a big conversation. Should we continue? Oh, this is a long purport. Kshatriyas and Vaishyas are therefore especially advised to give in charity at least 50% of their accumulated wealth. In Bhagavad Gita, it is recommended that even though one enters the renounced order of life, he still cannot give up the performance of yajna, dan, and tapasya. They are never to be given up. Tapasya is meant for the renounced order of life. Those who are retired from worldly activities should perform tapasya, penance, and austerities. Those who are in the material world, the Kshatriyas and Vaishyas, must give charity. Brahmacharis in the beginning of their lives should perform different kinds of yajnas. Yajna, dan, and tapasya. So performance of sacrifice means can do yajnas. Sacrifice, Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, of sacrifices I am japa. So chanting japa is a sacrifice. Harinam Sankirtan. Sankirtan yajna is a sacrifice. Dan means to give in charity. Giving knowledge is also giving in charity. Giving money is giving in charity. When you give away your daughter for marriage, it's called kanyadan, and that's giving away, giving in charity. And then tapasya, we're all meant to perform some level of tapasya. Prabhupada said that our tapasya is following the four regulative principles and chanting 16 rounds a day. And that's all the tapasya that we need to perform. But that's still a tapasya. It's undergoing some hardship for a higher purpose. So like that.
Next paragraph. Dhruva Maharaj, as an ideal king, practically emptied his treasury by giving charity. The king is not meant simply to realize taxes from the citizens and accumulate wealth to spend in sense gratification. World monarchy has failed ever since kings began to satisfy their personal senses with the taxes accumulated from the citizens. Of course, whether the system is monarchy or democracy, the same corruption is still going on. At the present moment, there are different parties in the democratic government, but everyone is busy trying to keep his post or trying to keep his political party in power. The politicians have very little time to think of the welfare of the citizens, whom they oppress with heavy taxes in the form of income tax, sales tax, and many other taxes. People sometimes have 80 to 90% of their income taken away, and these taxes are lavishly spent for the high salaries drawn by the officers and rulers. Formerly, the taxes accumulated from the citizens were spent for performing great sacrifices as enjoined in the Vedic literature. At the present moment, however, almost all forms of sacrifice are not at all possible. Therefore, it is recommended in the Sastras that people should perform Sankirtan Yajna. Any householder, regardless of his position, can perform this Sankirtan Yajna without expenditure. All the family members can sit down together and simply clap their hands and chant the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. Somehow or other, everyone can manage to perform such a yajna and distribute prasad to the people in general. That is quite sufficient for this age of Kali. The Krishna consciousness movement is based on this principle. Chant the Hare Krishna mantra at every moment as much as possible, both inside and outside of the temples, and as far as possible distribute prasad. This process can be accelerated with the cooperation of state administrators and those who are producing the country's wealth. Simply by liberal distribution of prasad and sankirtan, the whole world can become peaceful and prosperous. Interesting. Prabhupada starts off the paragraph talking about how the modern day or whatever corrupt politicians and leaders tax citizens immorally, which is true.
Tax to death.
And then, I mean, not just in so-called advanced countries, and I'm just using these words as people may see it, but even countries that are seen as poverty-stricken, the leaders will take the money, as Prabhupada says, and then we see campaigns or this and that to help poor people in that country. But there is wealth there, it's just not distributed. Sorry, just trying not to be controversial, but then Prabhupada again goes on to and brings up how the Sankirtan Yajna, which can be done so simply, doesn't mean, oh, I'm not going to do that, I'll go out and Harinam or books or do this or that. You can just get together, clap your hands and chant. Sit down with family members, sit down with friends, sit down by yourself. You can do it. And then Prabhupada ends that this process, liberally doing this and distributing prasadam will make everyone peaceful and prosperous. This is the simple formula, and not the so-called how leaders are allegedly leading, and then having got to in order to distribute the wealth, or in order to be a democracy and provide you with so many things, we need to tax you on this and this and this and this and this, It's like, no, because it's not being done properly anyway. But this simple method, this process can be accelerated with the cooperation of state administrators and those who are producing the country's wealth, simply by liberal distribution of prasad and sankirtan. The whole world can become peaceful and prosperous.
Yeah, it seems to take a lot of faith, and many people wouldn't buy that, but we have to prove it to them. So that's our mission if we choose to accept it.
Yeah, and we can prove it to them by starting in our own lives and our own homes, and then people, your family, your neighbours, your work colleagues, friends. You'd be the change, as it were, and you'd be surprised at how big that ripple effect can be,
Okay, next paragraph. Generally, in all the material sacrifices recommended in Vedic literature, there are offerings to the demigods. The demigod worship is especially meant for less intelligent men. Actually, the result of such sacrifice goes to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Narayan. Lord Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita 5.29, Bhaktaram Yagya Tapasam. He is actually the enjoyer of all sacrifices. His name, therefore, is Yagya Purush. Yeah, I think that's relatively self-explanatory, but in general, in Vedic yajnas, there's always if done, I guess you could say properly according to that, then there's always mention of the devatas, mention of the demigods. Even as we're reading through Bhagavatam, I'm just listening to the 4th canto, again, the audio book by Krishna Dharma Prabhu. And, the whole Daksha Yagya, all the demigods are there, all the devatas come. That's the idea and the principle that from the sacrifice, the devatas, they enjoy the spoils or the results of that, and that's meant to be distributed to them because they're looking after us, you could say in one sense. So it's not that we deride them, but it's not that we worship them just for some benefit. The idea is that we perform yajna for the pleasure of Krishna because he's the original Supreme Personality of Godhead from whom everything emanates. He's the root of all the branches, the different devatas. So we don't just go to a devata to get something, because the devata is going to have to go to Krishna anyway to get the thing. He has to be sanctioned by someone, and that someone is Krishna.
Okay, final paragraph. Although Dhruva Maharaj was a great devotee and had nothing to do with these sacrifices, to set an example to his people, he performed many sacrifices and gave all his wealth in charity. For as long as he lived as a householder, he never spent a farthing for his sense gratification. In this verse, the word karma phala pradhan is very significant. The Lord awards everyone different kinds of karma as the individual living entity's desire. He is the supersoul present within the heart of everyone, and he is so kind and liberal that he gives everyone full facilities to perform whatever acts one wants. Then the result of the action is also enjoyed by the living entity. If anyone wants to enjoy or lord it over material nature, the Lord gives him full facilities, but he becomes entangled in the resultant reactions. Similarly, if anyone wants to engage himself fully in devotional service, the Lord gives him full facilities, and the devotee enjoys the results. The Lord is therefore known as Karma Phala Pradha.
Karma Phala Prada.
Karma Phala Prada. So Krishna awards. Well, what did I just see? Something. Okay, so super soul in the heart knows what we want, and the Lord fulfills. And then it says, oh yeah, if anyone wants to enjoy or lord it over material nature, the Lord gives him full facilities, but he becomes entangled in the resultant reactions. So it's a bit like can't really win, It's like you think, oh, alright, that's good, Krishna's in my heart, so he knows what I really want. Sorted. And then yeah, okay, you'll get what you want because Krishna's in the heart, but it comes with a price, and you just get more entangled. What? That's not what I want. I didn't ask for that though. That's how it is in the material world. It's a very small print, and you got to read that small print before you come in.
Small print. No matter what you do, you will never win.
Yeah, it's a win-win for Krishna. All right.
So, yeah, I just wanted to say on this point that, well, it says as long as he lived as a householder, he never spent a farthing for his sense gratification. And, yeah, I would say that needs to be clarified in what way that's understood. He lived as a king. For sure he lived in some level of opulence. He didn't live in a trailer or some hut in the forest and ruled the country. So he lived certainly in some level of opulence. His father lived in a palace. His father was, Uttanapad. King Uttanapad was a great man. And for sure there is some level of opulence. So how do we understand that he didn't spend a farthing for his sense gratification? We can understand Bharat, the brother of Lord Ram, when Ram was banished. Then he said, I'll also stay banished. I'll rule the kingdom, but I'll do it from a hut. He also wore tree bark, ate only, I forget what his diet was, but it was kind of like a khichdi, but it wasn't khichdi. It was something like oats soaked in cow urine or something like that. And he worshipped the padukas of Lord Ram, the shoes. And he lived very austerely, not taking a farthing for his sense gratification. But my hunch is that isn't exactly what Dhruva Maharaj was doing. Now, so do we understand that is there a space for engaging with our necessities according to, because I found it interesting how then Prabhupada went on to say the Lord awards everyone different kinds of karma as the individual living entity desires. So different personalities, and we know from the pastimes of Lord Chaitanya and different things, and even throughout the Bhagavatam, there are many, many great kings who are great devotees. But they certainly have some level of opulence. They certainly engage with opulence. How exactly to do that without spending a farthing for your own personal sense gratification? It's like, of course, I didn't buy it. I was going to say, I bought this jumper, but I didn't buy it. This was a gift many years ago from my mother. But if I was to go and buy it because I like the color, again, I didn't. This is what she gave. But it's like, okay, if I went and bought it because I like the color, or I think it's, I forget, it's some brand. I don't even know what the brand is. But I like that brand. It's a cool brand. I like the color. I like this. It's going to keep me warm. Is that, is that a sense gratification? Is that personal, what did it say? Yeah, sense gratification. Anyway, it's a thought. What do you think? We'd like to hear from you. Please write your reflections and your thoughts below.
Okay.
Hare Krishna.
See you next time, everybody.
Until next time. Maybe at some point it'll stop snowing and being so cold outside that we can go somewhere. Actually, I think tomorrow I'd like to go to Matchless Gifts again and do a reading there.
It's just down the road. It's our local.
After we finish our morning service.
You're addressing the deity.
Okay.
Do a vlog on that one day on Bhakti Vision.
Hare Krishna. Alright, thank you all very much. Please read the Bhagavatam in your spare time. Keep watching. Please like,
comment,
share,
and subscribe.
Yay! Haribol!
Anyway.